تعتبر مالطا من أصغر دول العالم، وتقع في وسط البحر الأبيض المتوسط بين قارتي أوروبا وأفريقيا، حيث تمثل خطاً تجارياً بحرياً هاماً. وقد شهدت مالطا مرور أكثر من 200 حضارة عليها، ولذلك تأثرت ثقافتها بثقافات مستعمريها عبر التاريخ، خاصة الإنجليزية والعربية وثقافات دول شمال أفريقيا. وتعد اللغة المالطية قريبة جدا من اللغة العربية. انضمت مالطا إلى الاتحاد الأوروبي عام 2004، ويعتمد اقتصادها على التجارة الخارجية والصناعة والسياحة والصيد البحري.
My name is Clive Aquilina Espanyol. I was appointed 3 years ago. It was COVID time, so interaction was a little bit limited, and diplomacy is all about public relations, so it was a very, very tough task to handle initially. It was my first term as an ambassador. I was in the Gulf for 7 years preceding my arrival here, but not as an ambassador. I was not in the diplomatic service, so all factors considered, it was quite a challenge. I discovered a much better Saudi than I thought, despite being so close in the neighboring countries, and not just in terms of the country, but also in terms of the people, the interactions with the locals and with the people living here, and that facilitated as well our work. And overall, it was a superb 3-year period. I was expecting a typical country like the rest of the Gulf. When coming here, the perception then, I was no longer living a perception, but I was living a reality. And the reality versus the perception is much better. During 3 years, we've seen a lot being projected from Saudi to the rest of the world. Now you hear more people knowing more about Saudi and what Saudi can offer. Also because the kingdom is open for tourism. So with these steps taken, the perception will be much better than what I had back then in 2020 before I came. Over the past 3-4 years, I explored the main cities, of course, Riyadh. We are resident in Riyadh as an embassy. Jeddah as the second, so to speak, capital. I explored it as well, and I like it very much. I like Jeddah, also because it's a different city than Riyadh. You see a different dimension. Dammam, Dhahran. I exhausted the main capitals, the main cities, but the secondary parts are yet to be explored. Culture is very rich in Saudi, and this is again contrary to perception out there. It's a very rich culture, very rich old culture. There are treasures to be unearthed and discovered by people out there, including the Maltese population, Maltese people. The food is also slightly different from the rest of the Gulf. And I'm mentioning this because this indicates that Saudi has its own authenticity and own identity. It's not any Gulf. There are a variety of restaurants, some of them not even found in my country. Also in terms of sports, for example, you can practice sports, for example, horse racing, camel racing. These are beautiful events that dot the calendar. A lot is happening in terms of cultural events, whether musicians come here, and not necessarily in Riyadh, in Alula as well. I've been twice to Alula, and I was very much impressed with the quality of the performers that they are bringing from outside. It was actually a struggle to keep up with what is going on in terms of cultural scene and all the variety that the kingdom is offering right now.
العلاقات السعودية المالطية هي علاقات تسير بوتيرة جيدة. هذا ما نلاحظه حقيقة من خلال الزيارات المتبادلة، من خلال الزيارة التي حصلت في العام 2016 من قبل الحكومة المالطية لبحث سبل التعاون المشترك بين المملكة. وكان هناك اجتماع كبير يضم حقيقة وزارات من دولة مالطا، وزارة المملكة العربية السعودية، وكان الغرف التجارية أو تحت مظلة الغرف التجارية السعودية حاضرة. هذه الجزيرة التي يعني تعتبر مساحتها يعني تعتبر واحدة من أصغر الدول على مستوى العالم، حيث مساحتها لا تتجاوز 316 كيلومتر، وعدد سكانها لا يتجاوزون 400 ألف نسمة. وإذا أخذنا مقارنة أو نسبة وتناسب ما بين المساحة وعدد السكان، فهي تعتبر من أكثر الجزر كثافة من حيث الكثافة السكانية. هذه الجزيرة على مر التاريخ هي تقع ما بين الممرات الأوروبية والممرات الإفريقية. حقيقة هذه الجزيرة كانت مثار أو مكمن للغزو الأوروبي والإفريقي، فهي تاريخيا حقيقة حصلت هناك كثير من الاستعمارات لهذه الدول، كثير من الغزوات، بحكم أنا أعتقد بأن موقعها الجغرافي كان ليلعب دور مهم استراتيجي.
The Maltese community is a small one in Saudi. So we are more or less right now a rough estimate 40 individuals living in the kingdom. Malta is a small country with a small population. So out of 360,000, more or less, one cannot expect a large number of Maltese living in Saudi. We have some families, but mostly individuals. When the number is small, I have the pleasure, so it's a pleasure for me because I have a relationship with almost each and every one of them. They are mainly exercising their profession here. The language is very similar. We speak a Semitic language. It's the only Semitic language in Europe. So the language is a facilitator rather than a barrier for the Maltese to come in Saudi. And with the opportunities that we are seeing in Saudi, in the past, one perhaps can attribute the small number of Maltese because the kingdom was, let's say, less open than it is today. It is at least open for tourism, and we will see definitely more Maltese visiting Saudi, if not settling here for a few years. Tourism in Malta is one of our largest industries. It's the largest almost contributor to the GDP. So automatically as an ambassador, I look at tourism as an enabler to connect the two countries together. I've seen more Saudi tourists visiting Malta year on year since I started. So at least the effort and the groundwork is bearing fruit. As far as Maltese visiting Saudi, it is on the increase as well. We are also deploying a certain level of effort through Malta Tourism Authority to increase the number of tourists from Malta to here and vice versa. What is Malta in KSA? Ultimately, it's the people. It's not the embassy, it's not the ambassador. It's not perhaps some items that we export, but when you have more Maltese people here, that's the best export you can see. That's the best influence on the Saudi people, and the Saudi people will be enticed to visit Malta. When you are a small country such as ours, we tend to suffer a little bit from visibility. And that is also important in a big kingdom, so that people get to know about this. That means that it's up to us to do more work here, to disseminate, so to speak, Malta, the people, what we are. So I believe visibility has improved. This was done also by myself attending as many events as possible. I try to dedicate a lot of time at the embassy as well, meeting a number of people, not necessarily in politics or part of the government, whether in commerce, whether people in culture, people from all walks of life. An ambassador is a good export. It's a good specimen of export from that country. We also had presence in tourism exhibitions. So Malta Tourism Authority was present here. On a political level, in this term I had, it was unprecedented. So we had 3 ministers, Maltese ministers visiting the kingdom in the space of 3 years. We had also the Foreign Affairs Minister visiting Malta. Another way how we strengthened relations was through education. So as an embassy, we are deploying considerable effort to get the University of Malta accredited to Saudi. And that will help Saudi students go to Malta, study there, and have their degrees recognized here, and they can exercise any profession. It's actually, Malta is a standard of excellence in terms of healthcare and education. We are also focusing on trade, increasing trade between the two countries. We already have some products, some Maltese-made products circulating in Saudi. We had a trade delegation last year accompanying our Minister of Foreign Affairs. And as a result, I have the pleasure to say that some good connections between the businessmen were created. So trade, yes, it's an area that we are focusing on. We would love to see more goods, Maltese goods circulating in Saudi and also Saudi goods circulating in Malta.
العلاقات السعودية المالطية تجاريا ربما هي تعتمد بشكل كبير على السياحة. دولة مالطا حقيقة تتميز بخبرات كبيرة وتراكمية في الزراعة السمكية. هذا ربما يعطي أدفانتج أو فرصة للمستثمرين السعوديين في القطاع السمكي وفي الثروة السمكية لكسب خبرات من هذه الدولة من حيث الاستزراع السمكي، من حيث تنمية لدينا الصادرات والثروة السمكية لدينا كبير. ونحن نتحدث اليوم في المملكة بأن الأمن الغذائي يتربع على أولويات الدولة، وخاصة إذا تحدثنا بعد أزمة كورونا وكيف تغيرت الأولويات لكثير من الدول، وأصبح الأمن الغذائي هو يتربع على عرش هذه الأولويات. أيضا في المجمل المملكة تصدر إلى هذه الدولة بعض المنتجات البترولية وبعض منتجات البتروكيميكالز، لذلك ربما لم نصل إلى الأرقام المنشودة من ناحية التبادل التجاري، ولكن في المجمل لاحظنا في آخر فترة من الزمن هناك كان زيارات لوزير الاقتصاد المالطي، وزير الخارجية بشكل كبير. هذا تأكيد على الرغبة من الجهتين أو الحكومتان حقيقة لخلق روابط تجارية واقتصادية مهمة. أمر آخر لعلنا نتحدث عن التبادل العلمي والتجاري. اليوم وزارة التعليم لديها لستة أو لديها قائمة بالجامعات العالمية التي تبتعث كثير من الطلاب السعوديين، ولدينا برنامج ابتعاث ضخم. أنا أعتقد بأنها واحدة من الفرص التي ربما تمكن حكومة مالطا، وهي أن تفي بالاشتراطات التعليمية والجامعية حتى يكون لها هناك مقعد ما بين الجامعات الموجودة لدينا في التعليم والابتعاث إلى مالطا، خاصة في قطاع الطب. وكثير نحن نعلم كثير من إخواننا العرب حقيقة يمارسون أو يدرسون هناك في كليات الطب، وهذا في تأكيد بأنها تقف على أرضية صلبة علمية بشكل جيد.
I look at Vision 2030 as the key of all this development happening and in the way it is happening. Certainly, life in Saudi and the progress in Saudi did not start with just when the vision was launched. The country was here, the intelligence of the people was already here, their initiatives, their zeal was here. But Vision 2030 gave them, it was the key to unlock all this potential that was here in the kingdom. Under the guidance and the close guidance, I would say, of His Highness the Crown Prince, it is working excellently. I think the role of His Highness is also key for Vision 2030 to unfold and be implemented in this efficient way. All countries these days have their own targets, objectives, etc. But it is very much felt here in Saudi that Vision 2030 is embraced by each and every individual. His Highness did an incredible job in ensuring that this vision does not remain a document. It becomes a way of life. It's becoming like a creed. We have to believe in it, and people are believing in it. The effects of Vision 2030 can also be seen in the interaction of the kingdom with the rest of the world. And in this way, Malta is part of the global world. Although it's a small island, it's a very active country. I must state it is one of the very few countries of its size that is sovereign. And that is a positive reflection on what is Malta. Very few land masses of that size have everything. We have all the infrastructure, etc., and all the capabilities to interact with the kingdom. And as a result of 2030, for example, one key contributor out of 2030 was tourism. So because of tourism, more Saudis are visiting Malta. More Maltese are visiting or interested to visit Saudi in the future. E-visa was a unique tool. In a few minutes, you can get your visa to Saudi and you can visit Saudi. Because of 2030, we see more openness in Saudi. That automatically facilitates or contributes to more encouragement on the Maltese side to visit, to do business with Saudi, to interact on all levels. It's always progress, 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 and fast progress. As an embassy, we have been here since 1985, so over time we had the opportunity to formalize cooperation in a number of areas. One particular is the agreement which forms the basis for a joint economic commission between the two countries. Being a person from the private industry, I value and I measure the success of a relationship between the two countries more on how much the agreements in place are working rather on how many more I would like to sign. There is always scope for more. It's always better to sign more. But I would say between Malta and Saudi, we have a nice number of agreements. The Joint Economic Commission is a superb structure that gives us the potential, that gives both countries the potential to work together in almost all sectors, being political, economic, social, cultural, etc. I must also pinpoint, besides the Joint Economic Commission, to a very beautiful air service agreement that we have between the two countries. It paves the way for direct links, direct air links between the two countries. So this structure, it is there. As I said, we have to make them work. And the Air Service Agreement is no exception.
طبعا القطاع السياحي في دولة مالطا يعتبر قطاع مورد اقتصادي لهذه الدولة، وهو إن لم يكن هو المورد الأول فهو المورد الثاني وإيرادات للدولة. أنا أعتقد بأن واحدة من الأمور التي ربما تزيد من عدد السياح والتبادل ما بين السياحي ما بين مالطا والمملكة العربية السعودية هو الإعفاء من تأشيرات الدخول. هذا حقيقة سيحفز القطاع السياحي بشكل كبير، واليوم السائح السعودي يعتبر واحد من ضمن 10 سائحين في العالم ودخولا إلى كثير من الدول، وحكومة مالطا تعي مثل هذه الأمور جيدا. وأنا أعتقد بأن إن لم يطرح مثل هذا الأمر على الطاولة فأنا أعتقد بأنه واجب الطرح مستقبلا في أي زيارات مستقبلية، لأن حقيقة القطاع السياحي يعتبر لكثير من الدول هو رافد اقتصادي مهم، ومالطا تعتبر جزيرة جاذبة فيها العديد من الأنشطة التي يهتم بها حقيقة السائح السعودي، وخاصة في الفصول التي يكون فيها الحركة السياحية نشطة بشكل أكبر، وهنا نتحدث عن فصول الصيف بشكل كبير.
My experience over the past 3 years was beyond my expectations, and in a positive way. My message is for the Malta population is they can visit Saudi, discover Saudi, they can enjoy themselves as well. It's a different culture, it's a different country with its own beauty. And the way I embraced Saudi when I didn't know anything about it except from or through my professional experience and also what I heard from my neighboring, from my stays in neighboring countries. I encourage them to do the same. They must take the plunge, just take a flight and visit the kingdom. And if they love food, they will find the food. If they want to go to a party in Riyadh, there is Riyadh season. For the businessman, plenty of business opportunities. So they just need to visit.